Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and today we'll be talking about supply and demand. So while running a company, being able to balance your supply and demand is so incredibly important. So here's our agenda for today. So first, we'll be answering our main question, what is supply and demand? And then I'll be showing you guys an example of pumpkins. And then third of all, I'll show you guys these two graphs, the supply and demand curve, and then bringing us to the equilibrium point. So moving on to our question, what is supply and demand? So supply refers to something that's available, for example, a product or service that your customers can buy. And when something's on low supply, it means that maybe this product is very scarce and there's just not enough of it. And when there's an oversupply, then that means there's plenty of this product and there might even be too much. So demand is wanting something. And so if something's at a high demand, it means that a lot of people want to buy it, everyone wants it. But then if it's at a low demand, it means that maybe this product isn't selling as well as it should be, it's not popular, and which results in people not wanting to buy this product. I'll give an example in a second. But linking these two terms together, if you have a high demand for your product, then you'll obviously have to increase your supply to adjust and get the optimal profit. And if the demand is low, then you should never oversupply, because if you're selling like fruits or something, or like donuts, then those will obviously go to waste if the demand is very low. So moving on to our super fun example, pumpkins and seasons. So when do you see pumpkins pop up at the grocery store? Oh my gosh, you're correct. Pumpkins sell out during the fall season, especially with Halloween and Thanksgiving going on, and everyone just wants to buy pumpkins for their own home. And so that's the reason why you don't see as many pumpkins at your grocery stores during the spring versus the fall. So yeah, the reason for this is because the demand during the fall season is higher for your pumpkins, because people want to make jack-o'-lanterns, put pumpkins out as decoration, those types of things. Now to our favorite part, the graphs. The two graphs or curves that I'll be introducing to you today are the supply and demand curves. And so the demand curve is mostly portrayed from the consumer's point of view, while the supply curve is mostly viewed from the producer's point of view. So this is the demand curve. And so this curve has a downward slope because as you increase the price of your product or service, the demand will go down. For example, if you priced a MacBook at, let's say, $50, which is super cheap. And so this will increase the demand because of the incredibly low price. However, if this MacBook was priced at maybe $50,000, which is super expensive, no one will want to buy this because it's just too expensive. Now for the supply curve. So when the prices of products increase on the market, perhaps because of inflation, then the producers will try to increase their supply as well. And so they manufacture more products to potentially take their chance at making more profit. And so that's why the slope of this graph goes upwards. And on the other hand, when the market prices decrease, then the production rates and supply will also decrease as well. And that's just to prevent overspending on the production and just not being able to make that money back. So one example for when prices fall down is, let's say a bag costs $20 to make, but you usually sell it for maybe $25 and make $5 in profit. But then once market prices drop down to below $20 for that bag, and so that means that that bag becomes unprofitable, which means you're actually losing money. But a common assumption people make is that the producer is the only one who ultimately determines the price. However, it's actually the market that determines the price. And so the suppliers rely on the given market price and demand to determine how much to produce. Now looking at supply and demand together, it's always important to find a balance between these two. Consumers almost always look for the lowest price, while the producers on the opposite side, they try to sell their products at the highest price possible. But the producers and sellers have to be very careful while experimenting with different price ranges while trying to find the optimal price. This is because if your set price is too high, like too expensive, then it's just going to drive your customers away. So to find the optimal balance between these two, we're going to look at this graph. And so it's just basically where these two lines intersect. It's where the supply and demand curve, they intersect. And that point is called the equilibrium point. And so at this point, it's at a point where this market is very balanced and there's no pressure to change the price. And so that brings us to the end of my video. Thank you everyone for watching, and make sure to stay tuned for my next episode. It's going to be about competition, which is the last part of my business principles, and then we'll be moving on to the marketing principles after that. And make sure to check out my previous videos. I did one about pricing, I also did one about revenue and profit. Those are very, very interesting, so please check those out. Thank you everyone. Bye!